Hello. This is working. Okay, I can hear my own voice, so this sounds like it's working great. I think we're all here. I'm guessing. Right, so we're running a little bit behind time, but we will find ways of making it work, mostly by kind of cutting into your lunch, I imagine. So welcome, first of all, bienvenido, and welcome to LinkPass 2, the second international symposium on LinkPass. So I'm going to say some thank yous shortly, but I thought I would begin, and I'm not going to be talking for too long, you'll be glad to hear, but just to give you an introduction to what LinkPass is. And so I'm going to go forwards by, some of you have seen these slides before, I'm afraid, but by means of both metaphor and elimination. Okay, so LinkPass is about ecosystems, really, and ecologies of data. And so we can ask ourselves, well, what is an ecosystem? And the first thing that I hope you will agree with me is that a cat is not an ecosystem, unless we want to get really biological about it. And gorillas, okay, even though they're much bigger than cats, okay, they're not ecosystems either. And 5 gorillas don't make an ecosystem. They might be a family of gorillas, okay, but they aren't an ecosystem either. And a cat and a gorilla and a goldfish and a kangaroo and a potted plant together don't form an ecosystem. Okay, because an ecosystem is a harmonious equilibrium of many different organisms and non-organic aspects of it, or environmental aspects that work together to produce some kind of stable series of interactions that persists through time. And there's some interesting aspects about ecosystems. One of which is that the motivations that drive those different organisms might not be the same. So the fish that are eating the big fish over here that's eating the little fish are not happening because the little fish and the big fish have some kind of agreement about the way that works. Okay. But nonetheless, that process of consumption and life and death and so forth is part of what makes that ecosystem stable and persists as well beyond the lifetimes of those individual organisms. It's also worth thinking that ecosystems don't exist in isolation. So just as here we have some people who are fishing and catching some fish and taking it back to that other ecosystem we can see in the background of a city. Well, in that same way, we need to remember that with digital ecosystems, we don't operate in isolated consortia or collaborations, but the things that we do interact and touch upon the things which are happening elsewhere. I think it's possible, not just possible, it's certainly true to say that there are various ways in which leaning too heavily on an ecosystem metaphor in the digital world is not always helpful. Okay? When we talk about consuming data, we don't mean that in the same way as consuming fish, for example, right? Because data can be shared almost infinitely in the way that fish, generally speaking, cannot. So one of the things that I would really like us to do whilst we're here over the course of the next 2 days is think about the ways, if we're going to be serious, if we talk about data ecosystems and talk about data ecologies, think about what are we actually talking about when we say these things? What are the aspects of interaction between different projects that we can learn from that, and perhaps where are there some fundamental differences as well? So to come to some concrete aims for this event, one of the key aspects or the key philosophies behind LinkPass is that whereas with many conferences or workshops, in a sense what we're trying to do is show what differentiates our work from other people, saying what is my contribution, what is my project's contribution or innovation that is different from everything else. Here, the aim is to think about what connects us, what are the commonalities, and what are the ways in which we can work together, as well as what are the absences, what are the things we need to work on together so that we can connect things, we can connect the various initiatives that we are responsible for between us. It's very much about the people as much as it is, and it's certainly as much as the technology. There's lots of time at lunch. There's also, this evening, we have a wine reception and dinner. And there's lots of time tomorrow to do talking and discuss specific issues. So I really encourage you to take this opportunity to meet the other people in this room. I know a lot of you, and from those of you who I do know, I know what an exciting and interesting group of people this is. And I'm certain that the folks that I don't know, I'll be looking forward to meeting too. So really, that's the most important thing that you can do whilst you're here, is get to know your fellow participants. And finally, of course, there's not really any point in doing this kind of stuff if we don't enjoy it. So please make sure to have fun whilst you're here too. Briefly, the schedule. Today is going to be a bit of a talky day. Mostly in terms of talks, people will be, the idea is to stimulate discussion, to talk about things which are interesting and happening in our field, rather than emphasis on particular projects. Certainly in sessions 1 and 2, people will be giving presentations on a range of fields, talking about things that they find interesting, which may well, of course, include their own work. Session 3, we're both going to, because we've had a slight timetabling change, so Gretchen is going to kick us off talking about users and linked data, and then we're going to talk, then we're going to have presentations from 5 projects which have been funded by the Pelagios Commons, which are dedicated to producing resources that make it easier for other projects to interconnect and produce linked data. Then we're going to move on to a wine reception where there will also be posters, so make sure to partake both of the wine and the posters and of the conversation. And then for those of you who have signed up, there is a dinner. If you haven't signed up and you want to go to the dinner, I think there may still be some spaces available, so let myself or Mara know, and we can make sure that you will have a seat at the table. Day 2 is much more interactive as groups. There'll be lots of breakout groups. Before coffee, at 10 o'clock there is coffee. Before that, there is an opportunity for people who are involved with the Pelagios Commons, which is a project that has funded this event. It has a series of special interest groups, and people who are involved with those special interest groups will be meeting to talk about things of common interest there. That's on a number of historical themes, so the ancient world in Latin and Greek, the medieval world, both in medieval Europe and the Islamic world and Byzantium, through up to the modern period, as well as technical groups who are interested in things like gazetteers, linked data in archaeology, and so on. So if you're not already involved with that, but you would like to come along and find out more, please come along at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. And join one of those groups. After coffee, we're going to break up into similar groups, but this time thinking in the broader sense of linked pasts and linked data in general. And from those, we'll be eliciting a series of themes, which will be the topics of breakout groups, which will split into 2 sessions, one before lunch and one after. And we'll be reporting back from that and thinking about what next steps we can take, which might be putting together working groups to produce whether it's documentation or code or things which will help the community in terms of linked data. Link Pasts is brought to you by the following. So LIND, the Laboratorio de Innovación en Humanidades Digitales, and UNED, the Universidad Nacional de Educación a Distancia, the Pelagios Commons, the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation, who fund us, and of course the letter Q.